it's so unusual for a director to be able to talk to another director. So
yeah, right.
Because, you know, we work alone and we think, well, this is how I do it, and you wonder. So good morning, Yuval, and thanks so much for joining us to talk about your latest film, The Secrets We Keep, starring Noomi Rapace, Joel Kinnaman, and Chris Messina. A great cast, by the way.
Great cast.
Yeah. First of all, I just thought I'd set up for anyone watching that I'm going to assume that you've not seen the film yet. So we won't give away any of the great plot twists you have, except to say that there are some really great plot twists in this movie. I will assume folks have seen the trailer, which makes it clear that the story is set in kind of post-World War II America. And it centers around a Romani woman played by Noomi Rapace, who kidnaps a German man living in her neighborhood and tortures him in her basement in the hopes of getting him to confess to being the man who raped her and murdered her younger sister back in Nazi Germany during the war. Is that a fair synopsis, would you say?
Yeah, because she thinks he's the guy, yeah.
Because she thinks he's the guy, correct.
Yeah.
So that's the key. Obviously, I mean, this kind of intense scenario raises all kinds of moral and ethical questions, right? About the choice between forgiveness and revenge. And it left me, having watched the film, and I'm sure will leave all audiences, you know, with a lot of things to think and talk about. So let's just kick off by asking you how you came to be involved in the project, Yuval, how the story was researched and developed into a final script. How did you begin on this journey?
I came in end of 2018. I knew the producer, one of the producers, there's Greg Shapiro. He's somebody I was in touch with on other things. And he said, look at the script, it's very interesting. And then Noomi actually called me and she said, you know, this is a very important project for me and I think you'll be perfect. And I saw this film of yours and I really would love to find a way for us to work on this. And there was a script then when I came in. Oh, and when I came in, the producer and Noomi said, we have a window that we're shooting in, I don't remember, April or something. You know, we have a window that we're going to shoot at that time and we need to work, you need to get in and work towards this, you know, a date, you know, because there's a lot of, you know, there's good actors involved, there are busy people. So suddenly there was a spot and that's the spot. So the script that existed needed a lot of work, and I said that, and Noomi agreed with that. And she was in New York. She was shooting Jack Ryan, you know, the TV show. So we started meeting in Brooklyn, like in Williamsburg, or she would come to me. I'm in Brooklyn Heights. She would walk and come over, and we would sit for hours and talk about the script and talk about So we did it a few times, and talked a lot about, you know, what we want from the film, like what interests us. Because for me, I came to something that kind of existed, but I'm talking about the script. The script wasn't realized yet. It was an idea kind of, and a setup, but it needed to become real. And there were many ways to do it. So even though there was a very tight schedule, we actually sat there and said, oh, we can do this. What about this? What excites you about this? What do you connect to with this woman, with this situation, with this history, whatever? And then we came to some decisions and we kind of clarified where we connect on the script and what we like together. And then I just sat for like 2 months or even less and just wrote a new draft based on it as we were starting to be pre-produced, you know?
And then you went to shoot. So, I mean, let's talk about, you have Noomi connected. She's also an exec producer on the project. But let's talk about casting, you know, from then on and your approach, excuse me, to finding the right kind of actor for a role. Do you have actors in mind when you're writing? You know, how do you, as a director, like to approach your casting, and how did you do it on this film?
Well, I usually, and I just finished writing a film now, another completely different project. I don't write with people in mind. It actually doesn't help me.
Right.
But in this one, Noomi and Joel were attached when I came. You know, they were already there. So the main casting was, you know, there's like 4 main characters in this film, you know, like really, like the film is about, mostly 3. There's a 4th character, Amy, Simon's character. There's Chris Messina character, who's a key character. So there's these 4 people. And again, Joel and Noomi were already there when I came. And that's great because they have a lot of history, you know. These, I mean,
they've worked together. Yes, they've worked together before.
yes, and they're both Swedish, you know. So sometimes they could start talking that Swedish slang, you know. So when they did it too, I started giving them directions in Hebrew to annoy them. So it's like there's two of them, and then Chris Messina. There was a lot of thought into who this guy should be, and the Amy Simon's character, Joe's wife. And both of them we cast, again, pretty quickly when we were already pre-producing in New Orleans, but we gave it a lot of thought. I mean, for me, Chris's character, you know, he is kind of us. He's kind of the American, the observer to the story. I mean, these people come with their past, with their secrets, with their history, whatever. And he, like us, we experienced the film through him, kind of, you know?
Yes, yes.
So Chris, we you know, I saw reel, you know, the way it does, you know, they send you reels of many actors and you think of everybody you know and who's available and you go through it over. And when I saw Chris, there was something about him that there's something good about him, but there's also something explosive, you know, there's something unpredictable.
So you're trying to find someone who, you know, is really the audience's way in. Someone, dare I say, quite normal. Who's not been through the kind of craziness that these awful times that these other two characters have been, and yet is dragged into that world. And then what I think is great is the way in the film he is kind of dragged into this moral and ethical nightmare and becomes a party to it. And that's what I think compels the audience and those of us watching to think about what we would do in that sort of circumstance. Of course, it's an impossible question until you face it. No one could possibly answer it in an abstract way. So you've got your script. Now you have to find locations. You're trying to put a good film crew together. In this film, there's a number of sort of terrifying scenes that take place in that basement. So just, you know, a lot of folks who watch this are wondering how a filmmaker's process works. So obviously, I assume you built a set for that basement. You didn't drag lights and cameras down into some dark basement. How did you go about your locations? Where did you shoot? And talk to us specifically about that basement, if you like.
I mean, we decided to show, you know, and it's also a production decision. It's not just my decision. It's like we shot in New Orleans, but not using the classic New Orleans, but in suburbs that are actually, some of them are really excellent for depicting this period. And my production designer, Nate Jones, he was very good at knowing what articulating to the scouts, and also when we build it, what we need to get to this kind of post-war World War II mindset, you know. The basement and the apartment is, yes, it was a set. I mean, we toyed for a moment with not building it, finding it, but it was impossible. And we built it. And there's a lot of advantages of building it, because then you can do it the way you want it, and you can, you know, because there are a lot of scenes there, once you're inside, you know, New Orleans, for example, there was a lot of weather there, you know, when we were shooting. So about half the movie we shot outside, and it's very difficult. Suddenly there's rain, suddenly not. There's all these rules. If there's a lightning hitting within 20 miles, you have to turn all the lights off, all this kind of stuff. That's finally you get into the basement, into the set, which is kind of just, you know, in a hangar where we built these sets. Then you're very much in control, and you can actually concentrate on the acting and on the drama and on the camera, and not constantly fight, you know, the elements. So in that sense, it was very good.
Yeah, given the intensity of those scenes in the basement and, you know, the demands on the actors, I think I'm a big fan of studios, actually, because you can block out, as you say, all that other distraction and focus on that emotional you know, core idea without which there is no movie. It doesn't matter how pretty the pictures are if the core performances by the actors aren't any good, and you don't have anything. So so you're in this basement. Let's talk about a little bit about the shooting style, if you like. It's beautifully shot, the film. I just got a note to myself: what was your approach to shot selection? Do you storyboard on a film like this, or do you just begin with the actors and only set your camera once your scenes are blocked and rehearsed? What's your approach on film?
For me, because this film was kind of more about the psychological drama and their inner world, it was not kind of a film that for me the focus is going to be about style and about camera. You know, we did do sometimes aggressive camera stuff, but that's not what the film is about. The film is about, you know, the inner world of these people. So and also because of the pace, and because, you know, really I was still writing the script as we were pre-producing and even into production. So there was something it was very fast. And you know, and so we didn't storyboard actually. I worked with a great German DP called Kolja Brandt, who I already did one film with him before. And typically we would just come in the beginning of the day, and we would stage the scene, and we would see what the actors want to do. Like we would, well, why don't you go there? Why don't you sit down? Why don't you, you know, not Joe, right? But why don't you do this? Why did you do that? And then we would think how to shoot it in a way that serves what they just did, you know, instead of fitting them into our camera stuff. And then it was a challenge for Kolja to light the basement, for example, so it doesn't look the same all the time, even though you can't justify dramatic light changes, right? I mean, so there was always thought, okay, this sequence will shoot this way with the backlight from here and and let's see how dark we can go and all this stuff. You know, I tried to push for as much camera movement as we could, and we did a lot of kind of aggressive camera movements at key moments. But in general, again, it wasn't a film about the camera. And the style that we adopted is kind of just this, okay, we have this period stuff, which means this wardrobe. Christina Flannery, our wardrobe person, she did an amazing job. We have these cars, we have these houses, we have this wardrobe. So we had all this world that we created, you know, with the, you know, of this period. And we thought about how do we let it shine? How do we give it this mood of like, you know, this is a dark psychological thriller, but it's set in this America of, you know, this optimism of the post-war, you know, it's like in the 50s, late 50s even, you know.
Very suburban kind of genteel environment, and suddenly there's something going on in the underbelly of it, yeah.
Exactly.
And so in terms, just finally on the actors, because I do think, as you say, a film like this stands or falls by the performances and getting the camera to really feel what the emotions are of those actors, getting to look closely into their eyes and their and their expressions and so on. So do you like to start rolling the camera pretty soon, or do you rehearse a lot before you roll, or do you like to get going with the camera soon and do many takes, or does it depend for you on each actor having a different feeling, or was it just, oh my God, I've got hardly any time to shoot this movie, let's start shooting and see what happens? I mean, we all know there's the ideal and then there's the practical reality of how much time you have in a day. But how do you generally like to work with the actors, and when do you start rolling the camera?
You know, I don't want them to waste stuff on rehearsing. We would rehearse mostly to block, and then we would start shooting. Something I do like to do that not all people like, not all actors like, some of them like, and the crew people don't like, is that I like to run takes sequentially, one after the other.
I do too. It's a great way to not break the pace.
That's why you don't let all the, you know, the light guy, oh, I need to change, I need to, no, right. I didn't say cut, you can't do anything. So it's like, I would do 5 takes in a row, you know, and stuff like that. And during that, I would try to push them and push the situation or adjust, or just, they do it again, they do it different, each, you know. So you shoot a lot, and, you know, that's the advantage of digital, but then at some point it kind of clicks, you know, and you just want to be there when it does, you know. So that's basically what we did.
And do you watch, just because I love it, it's so unusual for a director to be able to talk to another director. So
yeah, right.
Because, you know, we work alone and we think, well, this is how I do it, and you wonder, do you like to, and for young directors, I often find, watch these sort of talks to see how they might do it. So do you like to be close to the camera with your monitor? Do you watch the monitor? Do you watch the actors? Do you do both? Or are you someone who likes to be further away with your monitor, away from the set? Where do you like to be? In that basement? Are you in the basement, or are you out in a tent?
I like to be close.
Yeah.
And I typically, I would take, when I can, I would take a monitor with me and get in. The basement was very small, so it was hard to be there without, especially in scenes that we moved around a lot, like to be there without getting in the way. But I would be just outside, or sometimes I was in, because I want to talk to the actors. Like I do something, again, some actors don't look, but I talk to them during the scene. You know, I kind of, I find that even if it annoys them, it's good for the scene, you know. Give them something. Like, I want to do it before he's going to say that thing. I'm going to do it, you know, that other thing. So
it's very difficult, the whole process of working with actors, isn't it? Because someone once asked me, how do you work with an actor? And I said, well, that's like asking how you communicate with a human being. They're all different.
Exactly.
Some people need more, some people need less, some people want 2 takes, some people want 27 takes. And you just have to find a certain rhythm and hope that you're not, hope that you're helping to bring out the best, but not getting in the way. It's a very impossible thing to put.
Different. And they were so different. Like these 4 people were, each one was like, it was like north, south, west, east. It's like,
that's very interesting. So without naming,
nobody that was like some, each one I can tell you a completely different thing,
They have totally different needs, do they? As
completely.
That's very common. I sympathize, I empathize. And of course, done the script, you've shot the movie, and then we hit that quiet time in the edit room where it's just you and presumably your editor for X number of weeks. What's your process there?
The thing that we figured out with this film is that really, you to some degree you create the performances, or not the performances, the relationships in the editing.
Yes.
Like we really, would have a cut early on and we would screen it, and then people would say, oh, I don't believe, why this and this, and I don't believe that the husband would not this and this and that. And we would go back and do a cut in 10 days, and this relationship aspect would be different. I shot so much, and because of my way of what we talked about, shooting like continuously and multiple takes, and because Chris Messina does things like all over the place, and Noomi also, and whatever, we could change, dynamics in the editing, like dramatically.
It's extraordinary what happens in an edit room. It always amazes me. Is there any scene that stands out as particularly difficult or funny or not funny, or the hardest thing on the sheet?
I'll tell you a couple of things. One is that as a director, I'm sure you know this phenomena that everything after every movie or every scene, everything after a while becomes funny and a comedy. Like even I'm sure, you know what I mean? Like for me, every scene after a while and it becomes like, there's something comic about it. There were scenes that were very intense physically also, whatever, especially in the basement with Joel and Noomi. There were scenes between Chris and Noomi that were very aggressive emotionally, very difficult. Some scenes at the end where these characters break down, and we did it again and again and again, digging for stuff, like they were exhausted, I like shooting a lot, and I like doing stuff again and again. You just get into this rhythm, and then they get into it. Yeah, I mean, it's the emotional scenes were, the violent scene and the emotional scenes were just difficult.
And how many days did you shoot for?
24.
24, that's having to move. Wow, that's incredible. That's really a tight schedule.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the movie, Yuval. I mean, it was great to chat to you. As I say, one doesn't often get a chance as a director to talk to another director. People think we're all in the same town, but we're not really. We're all off making our movies, wondering how the other guy does it. So thanks for talking to me, and for great conversation, and a really good luck with the movie.
Really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
You're welcome. September 16th. Yes, I'm plugging it. All good things, mate. Have a good one.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye then.